Cancellations for schools, businesses, and events. Severe weather coverage is brought to you by Farm Bureau and Independent.
Coach's Show with the voice of the Red Ravens, Shea Neal, and head coach Jeff Leiker. The Red Ravens Coach's Show brought to you by the David W. Barnes Funeral Home and GiGi's Burger Bar. Now from GiGi's Burger Bar, the Red Ravens Coach's Show on the mighty 690 KGGF.
It's a great time to be a Wildcat.
Hello and welcome to GiGi's Burger Bar here on 9th Street in Coffeyville, and it is the Red Raven Coaches Show. I'm Shea Neal. We're waiting a few minutes for Coach Leiker. He should be here any second, but while we do, we're joined by the voice of the Caney Bullpups, Chris Freund, and the part-time voice of the Red Ravens. So there you go, Chris. Appreciate you being here. How you doing?
Absolutely. Hey, glad to be here.
So let's get it started. Of course, the battle for Montgomery County last week, and Ravens come up short 24-21, but, some positives to take away from this game. Obviously got off to a slow start, but really came back in that second half. Big part of that, 3 touchdowns from Amiri Wiggins. He was sensational. He was the best player on the field all day long, had over 100 yards combined with those 3 touchdowns.
Absolutely, and that's something you'd love to see is him being able to take control and get those touchdowns. And who knows, what would have happened. Slower start for the Red Ravens. Kind of the way it's been here to the start of the season anyway, but you always see them improving in the second half, and it almost happened again against ICC.
Absolutely, and of course, circumstance to start the game with the loss of quarterback Connor Oppo, and they were starting, of course, the former ICC Pirate Enzo Tedesco, who, he played like you'd expect a backup quarterback to play. He struggled early. You could tell he was anxious. You could tell he was nervous, but as that game went on, I thought he was sharp. I thought he started to make some good reads. I thought he started to extend some plays. So, that's really moving forward. We don't know what the status of Oppo is going to be for the game against Hutchinson next week. But what we do know is if Oppo is ready to go, great. If he's not, the Ravens have a really quality backup option.
Absolutely, but really, the bye week couldn't have come at a better time.
No, it could not have. And I'm glad you said that because, now we have to see how this team regroups. And, 3 tough losses to start the year. One where against Thailand you had the ball with 3 minutes to go, chance to win the game. Against Dodge, you had the pick 6 from Jabari Tiller that cut it to 3 with 10 minutes to go. Couldn't close that one out. And then, of course, against Independence, battled all the way back to tie it up, lose on a last-second field goal. We'll get into the that late unnecessary roughness call and what you thought of that. But I think, a lot has, it's been a lot of coin flips this year for the Red Ravens, and they've been guessing heads, and it's been coming up tails all year long. So a good chance to regroup, a good chance to maybe get some guys back from injury, and a good chance to kind of, reset, clear your minds, get ready for the number 1 team in the country.
Absolutely. With a bye week, you're able to do all of that and more. And it's amazing sometimes when you see a team before the bye week and after the bye week and how things start to click that weren't clicking before, and all of a sudden just a few extra practices or just that weekend to focus, and things can change just like that.
Absolutely. Now, first thing we want to talk about is, of course, something that the Red Ravens will need to adjust moving forward is, of course, their defense. And their defense has been good at times this year, but, of course, part of the reason for their struggles has been because they've been on the field so much, Chris. And I think, you look at this and the stats don't tell the whole story, but it does say on Saturday night in the 3-point game that Independence had 421 yards of offense while Coffeyville had 192. That's got to be better, and something that we saw against Dodge and we saw again against Indy, the Ravens have to do better at limiting the big play.
You can have all the depth in the world, but if your defense is on the field for as long as they have been, it's going to affect you. And you see that not only in college but NFL as well. You see these great defenses, and all of a sudden, they're on the field for a quarter and a half out of 2 quarters. It's going to affect it, and definitely change the game.
Yeah, and for the second straight week, we saw the Ravens go up against a really good dynamic quarterback. Of course, against Dodge, they went up against the freshman Trayvon Jefferson, who ended up having 3 touchdown passes, was just absolutely slinging the ball. Probably won the starting quarterback job for the rest of the year in that game. They were splitting quarterback time, and I think he won the job with that performance against Coffeyville. And then, of course, going up against Kai Coons in Independence, one of the best mobile quarterbacks in the league. Did a good job against him on the ground, held him to only 38 yards rushing on 15 attempts. But through the air, he had 212 yards and 2 touchdowns. So Ravens have gone up against some good quarterbacks, and they're going to see that again against Hutch when they take on a guy who played at DeSoto, was playing for state championships in his first 2 games this year, has almost 500 yards of offense and 8 touchdowns.
To say it's not going to get any easier, that's the understatement of the day right there.
Actually going to get more difficult.
Exactly.
But Chris, something I noticed here looking at the stats, and of course we're breaking down this loss to Independence. It's our Red Raven Coaches Show. Big thanks to GiGi's Burger Bar for having us here every week. Kavion Martin ended up with 146 yards, averaging almost 10 a carry for the Pirates. Aiden Lai had 21 yards. Coons had 38. So the Pirates ran for over 200 yards during the game. The Raven rush defense has been not just the best part of their team this year, it's been one of the best in the nation. And Independence was the first team to really figure it out. So my question to you is, that's going to be something they have to address before Hutch, because Hutch has 4, 5, 6 really, really good running backs, including their quarterback, that can pound the rock and score a lot of points really fast. So what do the Red Ravens have to do to find that groove, stopping the run again before they take on the Blue Dragons?
3 and outs. They got to get 3 and outs, but they also have to have that depth. I mean, you see it even in high school with me covering Caney. There's 6, 7 running backs. And just when you think, you've stopped one, they bring in another one, and he's able to do something a little bit different. And so it's going to rely on that teamwork and just closing those gaps and just, getting that good rotation.
Yep.
Because, if they don't, then, the hot hand will get the ball, and there it goes.
Well, and defense has to match the offensive depth. Where, like you said, you have depth at running backs. You have 3, 4 running backs that get carries. Coffeyville has that as well, with O'Mary Wiggins, with Rosarian Smith, with as well as Trey Jones, and of course Connor Appo. When he's on the field, he can run a little bit too. But you have to have that depth on the defensive line and with your linebackers, because if they're giving the ball to 3, 4 running backs over the course of a game, you can't just have 3 defensive linemen and 2 linebackers. They're going to wear out. You got to have 5, 6, 7 defensive linemen that can cycle, that can trade snaps, and then 3, 4 linebackers as well. So if they're keeping the running backs fresh, you got to keep your front 7 fresh as well, and I think that's key for Coffeyville.
If the running backs are tired, that means they're staying on the field more. So if you can have fresher defense than offense with that good rotation, it's probably working.
Absolutely. And now something else we've noticed, obviously we talked about it, Coffeyville's given up a lot of big plays. All 5 touchdowns scored by Dodge in that game all 4 touchdowns scored by Dodge against Coffeyville that game was on plays of 18 yards or more. And then also against Independence, they had a big 55-yard touchdown. They had a late a late big play that set up the game-winning field goal. So the Ravens, I think there's 2 things you have to do. I think the secondary has been the best part of Coffeyville's defense this year. So I can't necessarily blame the secondary for that because, Chris, it's college football. It's hard to play defense. It's hard to cover for 4, 5, 6 seconds, especially against some of these really talented receivers. Right. So I think a key for Coffeyville is these pass rushers got to get home. These quarterbacks are way too talented for you to give them a clean pocket and give them 4, 5, 6 seconds to extend plays. The Ravens got to generate pressure on these quarterbacks. They got to force them to throw the ball early. They don't necessarily have to get sacks. But if you put pressure on a quarterback, throws are more inaccurate, and they're more prone to make a mistake.
I hate to bring up the New England Patriots, but it's the bend, don't break kind of defense that the Patriots were able to do, and that's the reason why they've been so successful up until the last couple of years. Same way here. Maybe not give up the big play, but, bend. Your defense might bend a little, may not look so good on the stat sheet, but if you're giving up less points, it's a bend, don't break kind of thing. Absolutely.
Chris, of course, last thing we're talking about here with this Independence game before we get to the Hutch game coming up is, of course, we talk about this defense, and you can't talk about the Coffeyville defense without talking about Jabari Tiller. Had a really tough first week with a couple bad mental mistakes, a couple bad plays that's not really, he's not really accustomed to. It was just an off day for him. But comes back against Dodge, has a huge third down stop, has a huge pick six against Dodge, and then comes back against Independence, leads the team in tackles with 11, has a sack, had countless big plays again on third downs and stopping receivers short of the first down marker and getting a big third down sack. Jabari Tiller is the engine that runs this Coffeyville defense.
Yeah, definitely. And good job to Tiller for one main thing. Yeah, you can be physical all you want and make the plays, but you got to have that short memory. And good for Tiller to be able to put that, learn from what happened in week 1, but put it behind him, and the improvements in week 2 and week 3, like you're saying. Absolutely awesome.
Absolutely. It's our Red Raven Coaches Show here from GiGi's Burger Bar and Grill. Big thanks to them for having us here on 9th Street. Make sure you come check it out. You can come watch the show live. You can come here after the show is over. We appreciate it no matter what. But big thanks to GiGi's for having us here. Shea Neal, Chris Freund alongside with me as we break down this Ravens loss to the Independence Pirates. Get ready for the Hutchinson Blue Dragons out of the bye week. When we come back, we're going to step away for 3 minutes. When we return, we're talking about the KJCCC as a whole. We'll go over the early season standings, and we'll get you ready for this matchup with the Hutchinson Blue Dragons. Don't go anywhere. We're back in 3 minutes on the Mighty 690 KGGF.
They have third down and goal here at the 1 yard line. Mahomes out, throws it left, caught, touchdown! Kansas City, Rashee Rice with the touchdown!
This Sunday, the Chiefs head to Jacksonville to take on the Jaguars at Everbank Stadium. Tune in at 11 a.m. for the best pregame coverage in the NFL. Right here on your home for Kansas City Chiefs football.
The mighty 690 KGGF. Chiefs football is brought to you on KGGF by Roman Chevrolet, Rack House Billiards, Sawyer's Fine Wines and Spirits, Millie's Fine Furnishings, Merle Norman, Brewski's, Great Plains Federal Credit Union, Gemini Funding, Skyway Honda, Sports Zone Liquor, T.H. Rogers Lumber Company, Levette Health, Anderson Plumbing LLC, and Gillum Liquor.
When it comes to a time of loss, most folks around here trust and rely on David W. Barnes Funeral Home. It could be because of their compassionate care. It could be because of their superior service. Or maybe because of their fair, honest prices. Or just maybe for all those reasons. More people trust the David W. Barnes Funeral Home during a time of loss. The David W. Barnes Funeral Home, 306 North Klein in Coffeyville, an independent, family-owned business.
It's a great time to be a Wildcat.
It's good! The Wildcats are champions of the Big 12!
The defending Big 12 champions get the turf right here all season long. Join us Saturday as the Wildcats head to the zoo to battle the Mizzou Tigers. Our coverage begins at 9 a.m. on your home for Kansas State Wildcat football. The K-State Sports Network from Learfield.
The mighty 690 KGGF. K-State Wildcat Sports is brought to you on the mighty 690 by Farm Bureau Financial Services agent Justin Stidham, Roman Chevrolet, Coffeyville Community College, Eldemont Builder Supply, Corner Post Insurance, Community State Bank, and Gillum Liquor. Your home for Wildcat Sports in the 4 states is the mighty 690 KGGF.
Is your dining room getting overrun with mounds of stuff? Old furniture piling up? And just wondering what to do if guests show up? Dispense with the family arguments and get an indoor storage unit from Indoor Storage Solutions on West Main in Independence, Kansas. Units starting as low as $45. Get extra space today. 620-205-6720. 620-205-6720. That's 620-205-6720.
Back here on our coaches show from GiGi's Burger Bar, I'm Shea Neal, Chris Freund alongside with me as we break down the latest in Red Raven football. And,
Sorry, I got distracted by the Red Raven Sports Network. My fault there.
It's easy to get distracted by.
It is.
It is. And we are live on the Red Raven Sports Network, and happy that you're here along with us, whether it's on the Mighty 690 or the RRSN or The RRSN. I was so ready to say 2 letters in a row that I said the wrong 2 letters in a row.
Yeah, I got you.
So, yeah. But let's get into it. Let's talk, we're 3 weeks into the season. Let's get a little bit into the standings, of course, in the KJCCC. And, well, there's one unbeaten left, and it's the Hutchinson Blue Dragons. And, Chris, this Hutchinson team, of course, not just, 3-0. They've also handled business each week. Played number 11 Navarro on the road, 42-6. Played Ellsworth, 72-7. Went on the road to play the number 5 team in the nation in Iowa Central, 27-2. This Hutch team hasn't just won 3 games; they've dominated in 3 games.
Yeah, that sounds like dominating performances. That is for sure. And I think they've earned the number 1 spot.
I don't know what do you think is more what is more intimidating, I guess, for a team about to play the Hutchinson Blue Dragons? Is it that they've put up 27 plus in every game? I think it's more so the fact that they've only given up 7 or fewer in all 3 games so far this year.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, a safety against Iowa Central, that's it. And then basically 2 field goals and a touchdown.
Well, and Navarro came into this one number 11 in the country, and Iowa Central was number 5.
That's amazing.
They've beaten 2 borderline top 10 teams in the nation, allowing a combined 8 points in those 2 games.
That's amazing.
It's incredible. And we'll get more into the Blue Dragons here in just a second. Of course, also Dodge City off to a great start thanks to a great defense and, of course, the quarterback play of Trayvon Jefferson. They're 2-1, undefeated in conference play. They're actually in first place in the conference because they're the only 2-0 team in the league. Independence 2-1 on the year. They looked pretty solid on Saturday night. You have Garden, who's 1-2. They've lost back-to-back games. Butler 1-1. Highland 1-2, and of course Coffeyville with an 0-3 record, looking for that first win of the year. But Chris, I think this speaks volumes to what we already knew going into the season, and that's that there's nothing like the Jayhawk. I mean, it's so competitive in every single sport. We see it with basketball. We see it with baseball. We've seen it in volleyball. We've seen it with soccer, and of course, maybe nothing more competitive than football, where all of these teams, it feels like you could rank them any order from 1 to 7, and you probably wouldn't be far off.
Yeah, any given week. I mean, any team could be any other team on any given week. It doesn't matter.
No, it does not. Some of the league leaders, of course, as we sit here in through 3 weeks, you have, of course, Tyson Robbins, one of the few returning quarterbacks in the league for Highland. He's averaging 231 passing yards a game, which miles better than he played last year. And then, of course, you have Kai Coons at number 3. You have Trayvon Jefferson at number 5. We'll talk a little bit about Hutch's starting quarterback of course, their star freshman, Samari Collier. But we'll get to him in just a second. He's also in that top 5. Leading the league in touchdowns, tie between Coons and Jefferson. Robbins at number 3. So, Chris, I mean, we're looking at this, and I don't think it's a crazy take to say the Ravens have played the 3 best quarterbacks in the league through the first 3 weeks of the season.
Right. No, that's definitely not a stretch right there at all. And so to be as close, especially against, ICC, to come within that field goal, yeah, it's not a stretch to say they played the top 3, and they've played them fairly well.
Amiri Wiggins for the Red Ravens. He's 5th in the KJCCC in rushing yards per game, averaging about 70 yards a game. Number 1 is from Garden City, of course, 128 yards a game on the ground is ridiculous. That's James Jones. We'll see him the last week of the season. And then, of course, Samari Collier, number 2. Imagine being a freshman quarterback that's top 5 in the conference in passing yards per game and number 2 in the conference in rushing yards per game. That's the kind of talent that is QB1 for the Hutchinson Blue Dragons.
And, I imagine that's turning some heads in the next levels, perhaps.
I would say so, especially since he started his career at a Big Ten school. The way he's playing, he may be on his way back to the Big Ten.
That's for sure.
Leading the league in touchdowns is James Jones again with 5. And he's been off to a great start. Wiggins should have 4. So I think they got this wrong because he had 3 against Independence and he had 1 against Highland. So Wiggins has 4, which would put him 2nd in the conference. So Amiri Wiggins, I mean, Chris, we've talked about it. When you're 0-3, there's not a lot of positive ways to spin a football team. But maybe the biggest positive so far for the Ravens this year has been Amiri Wiggins. Just a freshman, he stepped in and he's been an instant impact player for this Coffeyville team.
Hey, you gotta love seeing that happen, and not only for this year but for next year as well.
Absolutely. Benson Prosper, the number 1 receiver in the KJCCC, averaging 108 yards per game. You have Tyson Burrell from Independence, who we just saw this weekend, averaging 81 yards a game. And then, of course, you have Powell with Dodge, number 3. So again, these 3 teams, they keep showing up at the top, Chris.
They do, and it's kind of gives you a little bit more of an understanding why this season might have started like it has for Coffeyville.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. Leading the league in sacks, you do have a Raven on that list, Kyle Bryant, with 2.5. That's tied for second most in the conference. Leading the conference, Doyle Robinson from Garden and, of course, Brown from Hutchinson, who we'll see next Saturday, each with 4 sacks on the season. So the Ravens do have a little bit of a pass rush. It's just about getting a little bit more consistent and not making sure that these talented quarterbacks who we've seen all up and down the stats leaderboard don't have those 5-6 seconds to make a play.
And that's one of the players I am looking forward to watching from Hutch is Brown, to see what kind of impact and how Coffeyville is able to kind of keep him from doing his thing, if you will.
Absolutely. Now, let's talk a little bit about the Dragons while we have a few minutes left here on our show. And, Chris, you can't talk about the Dragons without talking about their star quarterback, Samari Collier, the 6'3 freshman out of DeSoto, Texas. Of course, started his career at Illinois. He's only played in 2 of their first 3 games, but he's got 336 passing yards, nearly 200 rushing yards, 8 touchdowns, and he hasn't turned the ball over yet. This is a special talent.
That is the 0 turnovers. That's absolutely huge, because even if you go 3 and out, if you're not giving the other team's offense that extra possession to perhaps get some points on the board, you're doing great. No turnovers. That's great.
Well, and Chris, it's just it's mind-blowing because if I'm going to read off his stats here for each game, and there's just not a lot that you can take advantage of here as a defense. Against Navarro, first game of the year, 12 of 16, 160 yards, 2 touchdowns passing. Against Iowa Central, top 5 team in the nation, 11 of 20, 176 yards, 2 touchdowns. That's just passing. Against Navarro, 8 carries, 55 yards. And then against Iowa Central, 14 carries, 107 yards, and another touchdown. This guy just makes plays. Whether he's running or passing, you can game plan to slow him down through the air, he's going to run. You can game plan to take him out of the ground game, he's going to throw it on you. You just have to kind of pick your poison when it comes to Samari Collier.
Yeah, you have to work to the strength of your defense, that's for sure. And it's almost unfair, isn't it, that he's able to do not one, but do both very well.
Yeah, absolutely it is. And Chris, what's so dangerous about this Highland team is they have a lot of athletes on this team. Of course, all college football teams do. Right. But Hutchinson, they're bringing 4 or 5 really good running backs that would start almost anywhere. They're bringing 4 or 5 really good receivers that would start almost anywhere. They're bringing maybe the most talented quarterback in the NJCAA. So, this team, you cannot, with some schools, Chris, you can pick the 2-3 X-factor players that you want to kind of highlight and you want to kind of slow down and you want to game plan around. With Hutchinson, it's 25 guys. You can't game plan for 25 guys.
No, can you do 1A, 1B all the way through? What would that be, 1Y basically, and have to game plan? No, you can't do it.
Well, and one of their most talented players, of course, is out of Lawrence, nearby Lawrence, and that's their star running back in Tyrell Reed, who's just a true freshman, and he was spectacular. He's averaging 71 rushing yards a game. That's 4th in the conference. He has 3 touchdowns already, and in his most recent game against Ellsworth, when he played against Ellsworth, 9 carries for 171 yards. This guy is a lightning bolt, and him and Collier in the same backfield, very hard to stop.
Lawrence, where do we know that from, and how in the world did he slip through the cracks? That's the only question I have.
I was going to say, the Jayhawks do have maybe the best running back in the Big 12 right now in Devin Neal.
True.
But Devin Neal won't be there forever, and the Jayhawks might be looking at their next running back.
That's very possible, that's for sure.
Absolutely. 5'10", 195, Tyrell Reed, and these... It's just, we could be here for an hour, Chris, talking about all these impact players on the Blue Dragons. And, that's what the Ravens are going to have to be ready for. They're going to have to play clean, disciplined football. They're going to have to execute, and they can't make mistakes, because if they make mistakes, Hutchinson's the best team in the country at capitalizing on your mistakes.
And that's where this bye week is going to come into play, because not only will you have an extra week, a few extra practices to get ready, and if anybody can get this team ready, Coach Leiker can. Absolutely. We're going to step away for 2 minutes. When we come back, we'll put a bow on this one. Don't go anywhere. It's our Red Raven Coaches Show from GiGi's Burger Bar on the Mighty 690 KGGF.
They have 3rd down and goal here at the 1-yard line. Mahomes out, throws it left, caught, touchdown! Kansas City, Rashee Rice with the touchdown!
This Sunday, the Chiefs head to Jacksonville to take on the Jaguars at Everbank Stadium. Tune in at 11 a.m. for the best pregame coverage in the NFL. Right here on your home for Kansas City Chiefs football.
The Mighty 690 KGGF. Chiefs Football is brought to you on KGGF by Roman Chevrolet, Rack House Billiards, Sawyer's Fine Wines and Spirits, Millie's Fine Furnishings, Merle Norman, Brewski's, Great Plains Federal Credit Union, Gemini Funding, Skyway Honda, Sports Zone Liquor, T.H. Rogers Lumber Company, Levette Health, Anderson Plumbing LLC, and Gillum Liquor.
Does your business need radio communications facilities? KCD Towers has tower space available. They can meet your needs in Chautauqua, Montgomery, and Labette counties in southeast Kansas, and Osage, Washington, and Nowata counties in northeast Oklahoma, with expanded coverage across the area. Tower space for cellular or two-way communications? Let's talk. Call Kevin Potter, 918-336-1001, or go online to bartlesvilleradio.com and click on Rent Tower Space under the Contact tab. Start your communications outreach today.
When it comes to a time of loss, most folks around here trust and rely on David W. Barnes Funeral Home. It could be because of their compassionate care. It could be because of their superior service. Or maybe because of their fair, honest prices. Or just maybe for all those reasons. More people trust the David W. Barnes Funeral Home during a time of loss. The David W. Barnes Funeral Home, 306 North Klein in Coffeyville, an independent, family-owned business.
Our Red Raven Coaches Show here from GiGi's Burger Bar. I'm Shea Neal. Matt Jordan now with me, my partner in crime when it comes to calling Red Raven football. And, well, of course, we're talking a little bit about this matchup coming up out of the bye week with the number one Hutchinson Blue Dragons, the best team in the country through the first 3 weeks of the season. And, Matt, I want to get your thoughts since we've seen this team for 3 weeks. Of course, Hutchinson, one of the best teams at running the football in the nation, with, of course, their star quarterback, Samari Collier. They have Tyrell Lewis, their star freshman out of Lawrence, that put up 170 yards against Ellsworth. This team's going to run the football, and I'm curious your thoughts. My personal preference would be, and I don't know if Coach Leiker would agree with this or not, but my personal preference would be I think you stack a couple more guys in the box to run against the Blue Dragons, and then you trust your guys like Jabari Tiller and Adrian Patterson and Cam Pearson to maybe leave them on an island a little bit more than you used to, because I think that's how you're going to have to slow down the Blue Dragons, is really committing to stopping the run.
Yeah, well, Shea, first of all, I don't think there's a way you don't really stop the Blue Dragons, so it's just about slowing them down. Yeah, it's just about slowing them down the best, because they're going to put up points. It's how can you limit them, how can you force them to make mistakes, and I agree that you've got guys that you can trust at the corner spot, at the safety spot, so bring a couple of guys down, maybe run a little bit tighter of a defense and prepare for the run. But the thing about Hutch is they always surprise, especially against Coffeyville. Last year, a guy, he was fourth on their depth chart at the running back position, came out, ran for 100 and something, almost 200 yards against Coffeyville last year, and burst onto the scene. So a guy that no one even expected to do anything kind of took over for them through the Coffeyville game. So we can expect to see the unexpected in that game. Right. And Coffeyville, I think, it's not fun to go into the bye week 0-3. Yeah. But I think if they could pick a week to get a bye, it'd be this point of the season, because you get the extra week now to prepare for Hutch, and you need it because of how bad the first 3 weeks have looked.
I completely agree, and we really don't know at this point in time who's going to be under center for the Ravens next weekend. We don't know what the availability of Connor Oppo will be for that game against Hutch, but continuing to talk about slowing down the Hutchinson offense and their talented run game, we've seen some of the best plays from the Ravens in the past couple weeks has been when they blitz Jabari Tiller. He's made a lot of plays, big sacks, big third down stops. Do you see them using Jabari Tiller a lot in those kind of like nickel blitz packages? Because Hutch has a lot of speed, and you're going to have to counter that with a lot of speed, and nobody's faster getting into the backfield than Jabari Tiller.
Yeah, Tiller definitely kind of showed out against Indy in those blitzes from that nickel spot, that slot corner, so to speak.
Very Mike Hilton-esque.
Yeah, that hybrid safety almost like Mark Barron kind of was for the Rams for a while. But it's an interesting spot. He's a big corner for corners, and he's very quick. But then you also have a lot of speed on the outside. I mean, Griffin Lampton, Kyle Bryant. There's a number of other really good, speedy defenders there for Coffeyville. So containing them on the outside, I'm not worried about. It's just, can you, in all phases of the game, control Hutch with your offense producing like it has the last 3 weeks? And if the defense plays as much as it did against Indy, against Highland, against Dodge City, Hutch is going to score 40-something points on Coffeyville. It's just going to be how it is because the defense has been tired, and they're going to continue to be tired because the offense just can't stay on the field long enough. So whoever it is at quarterback, I think the offensive play calling needs be a bit better, and you figure some things out offensively, and that is going to help the defense as well. You know the best way to slow down Hutch's offense?
Play better offense.
Keep them off the field.
Yeah, exactly.
Keep them off the field.
Yep, I agree. And another guy that had a really big game against Indy, I thought played very well, that I think is going to need to step up is, of course, the outside linebacker, Landon Barrett. We were saying his name a lot against the Pirates, and I hope we're saying it a lot against the Blue Dragons as well. Big thanks to GiGi's for having us here tonight for our Red Raven Coaches Show. There will be no show next week because of the bye week. We'll be back after the Hutch game on the 27th as we recap Hutch and get ready for Ellsworth when they return home on the 30th. So, Matt, big thanks to you. Big thanks to Chris Freund. Big thanks to Nick Bryan back in the studio. Until next time, I'm Shea Neal saying so long from GiGi's Burger Bar on the mighty 690 KGGF.
Live from GiGi's Burger Bar on 9th Street in downtown Coffeyville, you've been listening to the Red Ravens Coaches Show on the mighty 690 KGGF. Brought to you by the David W. Barnes Funeral Home and GiGi's Burger Bar. The Red Ravens Coaches Show is a production of KGGF Radio Sports.
.com for years.